Hey guys, let's do Get Ready With Me together. So first things first, I'm going to go in with my Power Grip Primer and just really get this on the parts of the face that I want to make sure the makeup stays on. And take your hands, we're just going to rub that in. Really probably should have moisturized first because my skin is definitely on the dehydrated side right now. I have not had the mental capacity or mental health to be doing skincare for the last week. But that changes today. Okay. For today's foundation, I'm going to be using the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Foundation in Soft Beige. Oh God, hello. Just gonna slather this on all over my face. And for anyone who likes minimal makeup, I know I'm using a lot. You don't have to tell me. But I'm a maximalist kind of girl, and I like all the foundations. So then take your handy dandy sponge. We're just gonna blend this right in. Just like so. One thing I always like to really stress to people who are learning makeup and want to learn more is to really take the time to focus on your base. If you have the time, take those few extra seconds, minutes, whatever, to really just go in and make sure that the areas of your face that you want to focus the most attention on, or that you want to have the smoothest finish, etc., take the time to really go over that with your foundation before you move on to any kind of cream contour or highlight, because that way you can make sure you have a perfect base before you start building on top of it. We're gonna do a little bit of cream contour with Camel Suede from She Glam. Oh. I like to do a C shape to really accentuate the cheekbones. And then I do a typical swipe across there, typical swipe down the sides of each side of the nose, like so. And then I do a little bit underneath the lip and a V right there. And to blend this in, I just take my sponge, the base of it, and I just kind of squeeze it down like this. And I just use that to kind of blend out the contour and help control where the product gets spread out to. I'm gonna do a little bit of cream bronzing. I'm gonna use the Wet n Wild Photo Focus Stick Foundation in Almond. I'm just gonna take this just right in these areas that I feel like my face will be needing a little bit of extra warmth, just like so. Then for cream blush, I'm just gonna take a bright pink matte lipstick, and really quickly, before that dries down too much, I'm gonna take the side of my beauty blender and just use this to just kind of pounce that in. I like to use a matte lipstick because once this dries down, it's not going anywhere, so it's a lovely trick to really have a cream blush that lasts you all day long. For concealer, I'm going to be using the e.l.f. Camo Concealer in Fair Beige. Just going to do a little bit of a dot right there, a little bit of a dot right there, dot in the outer corner. I'm going to do a little bit of a X marks the spot there, a couple of dots down the nose, another kind of V there, and a V there. Then to make sure that this really stays in all day, I'm going to take a setting spray and just douse down the areas that have the concealer on it, and we'll start blending it in right away. And then as soon as you lay that down underneath your eyes, take a setting powder and just go in and very, very lightly set that under eye area. We'll set the rest of the face here in a minute, but we want to get that under eye area set as quickly as possible. This is not baking, this is just a very little amount of powder just to set everything in place. So when it comes to setting the rest of the face, I like to go in with things like contour blush and a face powder to set everything with. So I'm going to go in first with my contour. We're just going to start pressing this in underneath the cheekbones, around that top like I did with my cream contour. Going going to take it up along my forehead. And the contour I'm just putting right at this hairline. I'll use bronzer to set the rest of it. But contour wise, I just want to set this hairline to really start the shadow that will then tie into the bronzer. And then last but not least, the nose. I'm just going to take a light contour shade and just really press this in right where I want the contours of the nose contour to be. Again, I'll go in with bronzer to finish this up, but I just want that contour to be there waiting. When you're doing bronzing, you want something that's a little bit more of a warm brown versus a cool tone brown. You want a nice big fluffy brush like this. Bronzer is meant to give it a nice glow to your skin versus contour, which is to create shadows. So you kind of just use it, or at least I use it to kind of blend my contour shades into the rest of my face. Which is also why you want a nice big fluffy brush, because you want something that kind of lightly graze across the skin versus pressing it in like you do with contour. So for powder brush, I want something that's rounded and very nice and fluffy, so I can really buff in that color. I'm going to be using Hank & Henry. I love this blush palette from them. I'm just going to pick up this nice hot pink, like so, and slowly start to buff that on with very, very light pressure. One thing that I like to do is kind of flick this up onto my temple area just to kind of continue the look of my cheekbones going up and out. Or maybe that's just in my head. I don't know. Just, you know, bring you along with me for the journey. So now I go in with a powder, a face powder, could be an eyeshadow, it could be a powder foundation, just whatever you want to use. And I use my sponge, and I use this to kind of help to cut certain contours or just really bring brightness back to the face. I like to take it just at the top of the blush on the cheek to really start creating that ombre and redefine the cheekbone. I use it to marry the bronzer on my forehead with my lower forehead so that I can really try and get rid of the halo of contour effect and really blend everything together up here. The nose contour, load up that powder on your sponge, and starting about middle of the eyelid, you're going to drag this right on the side of the nose. And you can go back in with a little bit more powder and just kind of press it to help blend in that nose contour. And last but not least for the nose, you're going to take just a little bit on the tip of your sponge, squeeze it together so it's nice and thin, and you're going to come down the nose, right on the top of the bridge, just kind of packing that into the bridge to create that nice cinched in nose effect. And because I'm extra, I take a nice sizable amount of the powder and I just press it in right down here to kind of chisel out those cheeks just a little bit more, because you know, why not? And before we let everything bake, we're going to take a little bit of setting spray. Do a quick little spritz, and then you're going to let that sit for a minute, and then you're going to take a nice big fluffy brush like so and go in and just buff everything together. This is normally where I go in to start plumping my lips up. I use the Too Faced Lip Injection Maximum Plump Lip Plumper, and I just apply this right here at the very base of my bottom lip, kind of up onto the meat of the lip, and do the same thing on the top, just right across the top, and then kind of drag it down. So I want my plumpness to be right there, right in the middle of the lip. And just a little quick tip about lip plumpers. If you ever are using a lip plumper and it's burning too much for you, if you take like a refreshing spray like the Bear With Me spray from NYX, or just a setting spray, either one works. Just do a simple quick little spritz onto the top of the lip plumper. It doesn't take away all the burn, but it does decrease the burn a little bit because you're adding a little bit of a cool element to the plumping process. So while the plumper still keeps working, you don't have as extreme of a burn going on. So, hope that helps someone. So The way that I do this rainbow cut crease, granted I haven't done it in a while, so this is gonna be a journey together. We're gonna start by priming our eyes with Mayron Con White Light. And you can of course use whatever primer you want, whether that be concealer or P. Louise. Doesn't really matter as long as you like it and it works for you. We're not gonna put this too much on the lid because we're gonna be doing a cut crease. So we're just gonna be focusing on blending this up onto the brow bone and the areas that we're gonna use to build up this color. You want a nice fluffy blending brush. This is one of my favorite blending brushes I've ever had. It's actually an acrylic brush, like to do your nails with, that I got back whenever I went to cosmetology school. And one day I was just playing with it and all the crusty stiffness of it went away. And I was like, that looks like a perfect blending brush. And it is. But we're gonna take that and start with a nice bright yellow. We're just gonna load this up all over the inner corner because we're gonna be using this as both the inside of our crease as well as the inside of our lid and the inside of our under eye. So don't be afraid to just really go in with this shadow. And if it gets like too big, don't worry, we're gonna trim it all down like we always do. But you really just wanna create a nice bright yellow inner eye area. By the way, this yellow is Blah from the Nikki Tutorials Beauty Bay palette. One thing that I always tell people when it comes to makeup is do what works for you. So like for me personally, even though I have tons of blending brushes and I could use a different brush for every color, that seems like a waste of time for me when I have a color switch. So I just drag it across here. The sponge is nice and porous, so it picks up all that eyeshadow and leaves you with a nice clean brush. Little hack for you, if you don't have a color switch or you don't want to go out and buy one, even though they're only like $8 to $12 on Amazon, you can find it in my storefront. If you have a hairbrush like this that has the nice stiff plastic bristles in it, you can take your eyeshadow and just kind of go across. It won't do as good of a job, but it will work. You'll just have to clean your hairbrush more often. So, just a thought. Next, I'm grabbing Redemption from the Nikki palette. This is just a nice bright orange. Any orange will do. Gonna load it up on the brush. We're just gonna take this orange and we're just gonna put it right here in the crease. And blending it into that yellow a little bit, but mostly just applying it to the area that we need it in. Doesn't have to be perfect right now. It can be a little bit crazy, that's fine. And then we're just gonna keep on blending this out till it's the shape and size we want it to be. Next, we're gonna take Mikai, which is this beautiful, beautiful red from the Nikki palette. And we're gonna put this on the outside. So we're just gonna take this and just very, very lightly start to buff it out on the outside here. And again, don't worry if the shape seems like it's getting too big or like it's too messy. We'll clean it up later. For the under eyes, I'm gonna go into Amsterdam, which is this absolutely gorgeous royal blue from the Nikki palette. I'm gonna take this on a packer brush because it's nice and thin. We're gonna use this to apply just on the immediate under eye area and start to create a bit of a wing right there. We're just gonna keep dragging this across. We'll buff this out here in a minute, but first I'm just gonna use this brush just to get the shadow exactly where I want it and keep it in a nice tight line. Just like so. Now you want to take a small blending brush and without any product on it, you're just gonna start to buff out the edges of that blue and get it exactly how you want it to be. And then we'll go in with a nude eyeshadow to blend out the edges of the entire eye. Now to control it all and shape it all, we're gonna use a skin tone eyeshadow. For me, one of my favorite ones to use is Basic Truth from the Nikki palette. As you can see, it is a very well-loved eyeshadow. And I'm just gonna use that same small blending brush, pick up the eyeshadow, and then with a very, very light hand, I'm just gonna take this around the edge and use this shadow to blend all these colors out and make them nice and smoky for the look. This is a great technique if you have been doing your under eyeshadow and it gets too low or like this kind of crazy, you want to just kind of trim it all down. You can go in with a nice skin tone color and just really shape everything to how you want it to be. So this is what it looks like before I've shaped anything, before I blended out the bottom, and this is after. hopefully you can see the difference. So if you've been watching my videos and you know approximately how I do my cut creases, for those of you who don't, take a double-ended Q-tip and some Vaseline. You're gonna dip one side into the Vaseline, keep one side dry. I like to use the back of my hand to kind of just mull it all over and make sure it's nice and evenly spread out. For anyone who doesn't know what a cut crease is or what I'm talking about, it's how to take this to this so you can get a nice crisp crease and do whatever you want to do on the lid. So now that you have your Vaseline on your Q-tip, you're just going to take that wet side and you're going to figure out where you want your cut crease to be. And you're just going to take this Vaseline side and use it to carve out that section. And the Vaseline will start to melt down the makeup, thereby giving you a nice crisp line. I'm going to take it out a little bit to my blue so I can blend the blue up into the green. Then taking the dry side, you're just going to drag that right over anywhere that you touched with the Vaseline. And the dry side is just going to pick up all of that melted product, leaving you with a nice dry lid ready to be primed and colored again. So next we're just going to take out whatever primer we use, whether it be concealer, Clown White, B. Louise, etc. We're going to use a nice synthetic brush to lay this down, and I like to do a line right at the top of that crease so you can already have that nice cut crease all ready to go. And then using that same brush, we're just going to drag that down. So for the lid, we're going to start with the yellow that we used earlier, Gloss from the Nikki Tutorials palette, on that same packing brush. And because this is such a small space, we're not going to try and blend as we go. We're just going to start by laying down the colors, and then we'll go back in and blend them out later. So I'm going to start with that yellow. I'm just going to be applying this right on the inner corner of the lid, like so. Next, we're going to color switch that same brush so we can use it for the green. Now I have no idea what green I used for that look because it was quite a few months ago, but I'm going to jump into the Michaela Pot 2 palette, and we're going to use Fall River for the next color. We're just going to go in with the packing brush and just start pressing that in next in line on the lid. Like all makeup, this is definitely a trust the process moment because it kind of looks like you're just doing finger painting at this point. Next, we're just going to color switch that brush again. For one final color, we're going to return to Amsterdam, the royal blue. So with that same packing brush, we're just going to go in, pick up a little bit of the Amsterdam, and then we're just going to use that right on this outer corner of the lid, and we're going to blend this into the blue on the lower lash line, like so. Now in order to blend such a small space, you're going to want to get a small blending brush, either the one you used earlier when we did the outside, or an even smaller blending brush. Could just be like kind of a fluffy pencil brush. You want it nice and small so you can get in there and really focus on those little bitty areas. Now there are two good ways that you could blend an area like this. You either take like this, whatever brush you're going to use, and dip back and forth a couple times between the two colors, and then go in and just using small little bitty circles, go across that area until it's blended. Or what you can do is take it one color at a time and just very, very lightly tap into like the yellow, like so. You're going to take this and just very, very lightly start to blend with little bitty circles from the yellow into that green. And then grab a little bit of that green on that same brush. You don't have to color switch it between these two colors because you're just going to try and work on the blending anyway. And then go back in from the green into that yellow. You'll go back and forth until you get the blend just how you want it to be. So now it's time for the liner. We're going to do a white liner for this look. And if you ever need to change, if you've got a good liner, like a favorite liner brush, this one I got from Lashy Box. But if you ever have like leftover liner in your liner brush and you need to get it out, one quick way to do it is to put just a little bitty bit of Vaseline on the back of your hand, take your liner brush and just kind of drag it through, And just like when you're cutting your crease, the Vaseline will melt down whatever leftover liner is in there. And then you can just take an old makeup wipe or a Kleenex or something and just brush away any of that Vaseline in that brush, and it will carry with it all the excess liner and it'll be ready to go. Okay, excuse this palette, it's messy, but it's silly because I love this so much. These liners are from Matte Lashes. It's actually two different palettes, but I put into one, but I'm going to be using the white liner from here. And I like to use a setting spray to activate it with, so I just use one spritz right in the liner pan, and then just taking my brush, I just load it up, and it's ready to go. We're just going to start with the basic wing, so I'm going to breathe in, breathe out, and as I'm breathing out, that's when I draw. Like so. Again, breathe in, breathe out, and draw. And fill her in. Do as I say, don't do as I just did. I thought I was recording, but I apparently wasn't. I took my Matte Lashes liner and I lined the bottom my waterline, not thinking about the fact that I should have had it pulled down. So if you're gonna do your waterline, pull it down just slightly and then go in, and then before you release it again, take some white shadow and set it. Otherwise, you'll end up with a contact covered in white liner, which is not fun. If you don't have a white liner, you can use a white eyeshadow base, like for instance, if you use Clown White Light, which you should be doing, it's in my Amazon storefront, but you can pick it up, a white base, whether it be P. Louise, Mayron Clown White Light, whichever one, get it on your liner brush, and then go in and draw your line just like you would with the liner with the eyeshadow base, and then go in and set that with a white shadow. It'll work just fine. So next I'm just going to take mascara and just apply it right on the very tips of both the top and bottom lashes so that they help to blend in with the eyelashes we're about to apply better. So I just kind of take it and kind of spring it just right. I don't really take it to the base because you're not going to see the base against the lashes. So I just kind of try and apply it right where it's going to show up against the lashes. And then I like to just add it to the bottom lashes for a little bit of extra definition. This is another great example of do as I say, not as I do. Make sure that if you are doing something like white liquid liner, you have clear or white eyelash glue. I do not. I only have black, so I'm gonna hope that I can get this one on without making a mess like I did over here. It's fine. I'm just going to apply this and then let it sit for about 20 seconds before I apply it. In case you're wondering, these are the Mikowi 25mm lashes. You can find them on my Amazon storefront. These are my favorite go-to lashes whenever I'm doing something super dramatic and fun. They're super comfortable to wear, super lightweight, for their size especially. Oh, come on, don't be difficult. Don't be difficult! As I'm sitting here talking you up, please don't be difficult. Of course. Now, if you know me, you're probably sitting there being like, Michelle, you forgot your highlighter. And I know I did, but that's why we're gonna do it now before we do any brows, so I can go ahead and highlight that brow bone and look just like it would be if I had done it at the right time, which is before my eye makeup, but it's fine. So for highlighter, I'm gonna be using Ivy from the Nikki Tutorials palette. And a nice fluffy blending brush. I don't know where my normal highlight brush is, but this one's just a little bit smaller, so it's still gonna work. So I'm just gonna go in there and load up the brush. And before I actually apply it to my face, I'm gonna take my Bear With Me spray from NYX, and I'm just gonna spritz down the area that I'm gonna highlight. Take that highlighter, grab a little bit more, because why not? And then go in on the nice moist areas of the face. And you want to do this while your face is still moist and damp, because it's the very same as if you were to spritz a brush with shimmer on it to really activate that shimmer. If you apply your highlight to your face while it's still damp with a setting spray or a refreshing spray, like the Bear With Me spray, it helps to activate that shimmer and give you a much more blinding highlight. Like so. And before anyone can say it, I know that I wear more highlighter than you think I should. It's fine. If I don't look like I'm sweating out glitter, then I don't want it. Next, we're gonna do brows. You can do your brows however you want to. Personally, my favorite way to do a brow is the Wet n Wild brow pencil. This is in the shade Gimma Brown Now. And I like to go along where my natural brow would grow. And then I just kind of go straight out in a nice Spock brow. So I start out with the outline in the front, and then I just take it and just kind of go, once I get my arch going, I just kind of go straight out, but a little bit down, just like that. And I do this with a light pressure because I don't want to go too dark. But then I start to fill in this front area. And I don't want the front edge to be too harsh for this look. I'm gonna take my ring finger and I'm just gonna kind of tap out the front of that and blend it into the area right around the front there. But I like to do this to create kind of a nice ombre start to it. And then I'll go back in with my pencil and touch up like the top and the bottom and really get it just how I want it to be. And that's my new favorite brow routine. Last but certainly not least, we have the lips. I'm just gonna take a clean wipe or a Kleenex, either one, and just wipe away any makeup, plumper, etc. that is sitting on the lips. Then just go with your favorite matte pink and throw it on. And then as a little bit of an accent to the lips, I'm gonna grab a pink shimmer. I'm gonna grab Pride from the Nikki palette, just like so, on a nice fluffy blending brush. And we're gonna apply this just to the meatiest part of the lower lip, right in the center of the lip. And then again, we're gonna grab a little bit more and do it just on the area of the Cupid's bow. And I use a fluffy blending brush so you can get a nice feathered appearance with this shimmer. Obviously you could just keep it matte if you wanted to, but I like to do this, especially if I'm like gonna go to work or whatever, so that you can have a nice glossy appearance without actually having lip gloss on your lips. So then you just take your setting spray, set it all in place, and you're good to go. Hope you enjoy this. If you do this look, tag me in it.